Hey everyone, welcome to Go M.A.D on the road. That's right. We are sitting here at Warrior Leadership Summit, which is a youth conference for hundreds of Native American young people across North America. So if you hear some noise in the background, it's a good thing. It means things are happening. We've got a special guest with us today, Sabin, who is going to share some of his story with you. You don't want to miss out on this one here on Go M.A.D.
So here we are at Warrior Leadership Summit. We're at camp, back to camp food.
Yeah.
Have you ever noticed that it doesn't matter what is being served in the camp food, they always will give you one roll. It's like this, it doesn't, breakfast, lunch, dinner.
It's because if you can't do any of the other food, if you're like, I can't eat that, I can eat a roll.
At least get some carbs going. Now, I also wanted to mention, strangely enough, we didn't plan it this way, the three of us are in a baseball fantasy league together. Now, we're going to be silent here and let our audience figure out who is very much in first right now.
I thought we agreed not to talk about this.
Yeah, let's put it this way. Sabin and I are pretty happy that this is a free fantasy league and no money's on the line.
Yeah.
Who is in first?
Rhymes with rug.
Well, we're glad that y'all are joining us today. We're talking about sharing the gospel in hard places and hard situations. We're talking about on eagle's wings. As we talk with Sabin today, who is a great leader for the kingdom, you're going to hear yourself in this story. Listen for yourself in this story because, look, as believers, we know it's our responsibility to share the hope of Jesus with people, but we also know that we run into a lot of the same issues, fear, worries about how are people going to respond. So as you listen to the story today, Sabin's story today, listen for yourself because there are some really amazing ways that God is working in Sabin's life and the lives of On Eagle's Wings leaders. And if you're in a tough place or in a tough situation, maybe your family doesn't know the Lord, you're in a tough workplace, and you're in a difficult situation, well, you're going to hear about great ways to confront that. As you hear Sabin's story today.
Yeah, and I'll say that it's pretty cool because Doug and I have had the just honor, the joy of getting to know Sabin even better this past year because Sabin, why don't you just tell us? Introduce people to you, name, tribe, where you're from, and even what you were up to this past year.
Yeah, so my name is Sabin. I'm Anakamela. That's the way how we pronounce it, or the other name people know is Kila. I'm from Cotdale, Arizona, on the Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian community. And the past year, I just recently graduated M.A.D from the Leadership Center. It's a life-changing experience, I would say, for anyone who ever thought of what to do next in life, whether it be graduating from high school, graduating from college, or just doing whatever, know what's going on. That was a really good life-changing experience.
Oh, that's awesome. We've loved being able to get to know Sabin more this past year because when you get to know him, you get to know that, yes, he is a great guy with a great story, but you're a pretty funny guy too. I mean, you keep people cracking up a lot, which I love because joy of the Lord. You know that we can have fun as followers of Christ, as ambassadors of Christ, but you also know that there's a time when you got to lock in and be serious about stuff, especially the gospel. As people are watching this, we're not sitting around this table as people are seeing this and hearing this. We are out, especially Sabin is out on a reservation basketball court somewhere that he is setting up and he is telling people about Jesus. Now, before we get to what that's all about, tell us a little bit about how you first met Jesus. What's your hope story? I mean, I've heard it, but people need to hear this.
Yeah, so it all started like before I was born. My dad left. He thought it would be better for me not to, I wouldn't say get like knowing who he was. It would just be like his lifestyle and what he was doing at that time. So he left before I was born. All he asked my mom was that I kept his last name. So that's why my last name Miguel and different from my other family. When I was born, the umbilical cord wrapped around my neck. It crushed my airway in a sense. And my airway is like that tinier than a penny.
Wow.
So growing up, it was hard to breathe. I still had trouble breathing sometimes when I sleep. So when I sleep, I tend to stop breathing for a couple of seconds. But I developed a list because I learned how to talk through my nose and breathe out my mouth. And so growing up, it was really hard. I was bullied constantly at school for it. You know, people who I thought were my friends ended up joining in on the bullying with me. I would meet up most of the time, even on the bus on the ride home. Uh, I, my mom, she ended up getting married again to our stepfather. You know, there wasn't good times with him, and there weren't the bad times. Uh, Going back to my breathing, they looked in my airway. I would go to speech therapy. Start that off. I would go to speech therapy. They would teach me like all these exercises to do, and so one of the exercises I remember to slow down when I speak because how me psychologically how I think it in that I got to get everything out before I run out of breath, and so I tend to speed up my talking and then I run out of breath. But none of that would work until one day my speech therapist decided to look into my throat, and that's when the whole airway thing was discovered. She called my mom in, and I don't really remember that day. I just remember I was playing with something off to the side, and I just remember my mom breaking down crying because they had no idea. One dinner, I remember we were eating steak, and steak was always hard for me. Any type of meat were always hard for me to eat. And because I wouldn't eat a lot, you know, I was really small. I had a really, really fragile body, I guess you could say. And even when I was like 10 and I would be like smaller than everyone shot up in size. I was smaller than everyone in our grade. People used to joke that if a gust of wind came, it would just pick me up and take me. Like that's how small I was. And so one day, going back to the story, one day we're eating meat. I think it was steak one day, and I only took a couple bites and I was finished. And my mom, they got mad at me because I was wasting food and basically wasting food because I wanted to eat it all. But it was because I would choke on the meat and other types of foods whenever I would eat. And so I would be afraid to eat. And they sent me home. They not home. I was already home. They sent me to bed because I wouldn't eat, and then they thought I was wasting food. And that's what my mom remembers, and that's why she went breaking down crying because they had no idea, they had no clue. Fast forward, I get tonsil surgery, and I got my tonsils removed. And with my stepdad, he was nice. He was nice on Sundays, and then other times there were bad memories, of course. But I remember one day I'm outside with him, my sister, and our dogs we had. They were German Shepherds, so they were big boys. But I remember one day I told him I'm gonna go inside to get a snack, and I was watching my little sister at the time too because she was a baby. And I told him I'm going inside and getting a snack, and he said okay. And I go inside to get a snack, and out of nowhere I hear the door slam open, and I just hear loud footsteps, and he grabbed me by my neck, and he dragged me outside. Um, I was trying to keep up with him too, but I was too slow, and like my feet dragged, and I was thrown down the stairs. Because during that time I went to go get a snack, one of the dogs knocked over my little sister. And fast forward, my mom and stepdad get divorced. Going back to, I have three older siblings, including my little sister, but I'm the youngest during the time I was the youngest. I was considered the baby. I don't know. Then, Brad, you know how that's like.
I relate. I relate with that.
He knows.
Saving the best for last. No, all right, there we go.
I always say my mom knew she got the right one, so she popped. But
Please don't say that.
we'll talk about this. But my siblings weren't always nice to me. We had our oldest one. I look up to him as my savior. Then we'll say that. We'll come forward back to that. But as my two older siblings would bully me, he would be the one to stop them, get after them. And so one day my older brother left when he turned 18, and that kind of left me at the mercy to my two older siblings. So it always hurt. My mom, she was a single mom, of course, before she found my stepdad. She would go work early in the morning and then come back late at night, and would have the time to take care of it too, but too, she would be tired, of course, from coming home and working long days. But yeah, that left me to the mercy of my older brother and sister when she was at work. And the older brother too, both the brothers move out, and like me and my older sister there. So she ends up leaving. My older sister ends up leaving too one day. So it's just me, my stepdad, my sister, and me. Um, Later on in the future, my mom and my stepdad divorced, and my mom happened to run into the pastor at the grocery store who ended up marrying my mom and stepdad. And he asked her how she was doing. They caught up a bit, and she told him what had happened, and he invited her to church. And so she goes to church. She comes back the next week. I'm brought along because I was a teenager at the time, or not a teenager, preteen they call them. Preteen at the time. I was mad, but now I'm thankful for it. That the first verse she ever heard was, "As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord." So she brought me with her, and I've been going there for a year. The next year, during that time, I hear about this man named Jesus. He loved me. I heard about the stuff he went through with the whole being beaten, being made fun of, and not being able to fit in.
Wow.
And so I figured out that he died for us, of course, and so that way we could have a better life. And just seeing the love and the happiness of my mom, like I wanted to feel that too. And so at a young age, I accepted the Lord into in my heart, and that relationship. I began that relationship, and after that, everything been looking up. Of course, my brother and sister, they stopped treating me bad. You know, if you see us now, we're like the best of friends. And all my brothers, even my older brother too, he came back into our life, and they've all accepted the Lord too. They all began that relationship, and just back then compared to now, like it was like the best thing ever. You know, we're all one big happy family now.
You saw in Jesus someone that you related to.
Yes.
And the reason you got to see that is because someone told you about who Jesus really was. Yeah, and all of a sudden, because someone talked about him, there you are saying, I get that. That's the kind of guy that I've been through that.
And this is on eagle's wings. I mean, this is what's so, I mean, as I hear that, I'm thinking of, on Eagle's Wings, officially, Native young people going to Native American communities across the country, into Canada, sharing the hope they have with other Native Americans. I've been going for 30-something years. I've seen so many come to Jesus through it. And I'm just hearing over and over as I'm hearing your story, all of the hope stories that have been brought by Native American young people saying, the reason I know Jesus is because I could relate to him. I've heard, how many times have we heard one of y'all sharing your hope story and saying, I had heard he was a white man's God. I had heard all of these things, but when I actually investigated for myself, I found Jesus, a God that came to this earth as a human so he could relate to me. So that's what On Eagle's Wings is officially, but for you, what is On Eagle's Wings? What's your experience been like? How would you describe it to somebody that asked you about it?
I would say it's like one big family. Like that's what it truly become. Like everyone, every year, you know, they've become closer to me than even my own family. It is a life-changing experience. You know, ever since joining the team, I've been doing things I thought I never would have doing growing up. Of course, traveling to different reservations, spreading the love and hope that we found in Jesus. You know, I've been so many places.
One of our cooks once said, she said, when you're with On Eagle's Wings, it's like you're chasing God's glory. You're what's the next thing God's gonna do? And I love what you said about this one family. That it's a big family because it's from tribes across the country. The OEW team is 30 to 40 young people usually that have applied for the team. They've gotten pastors' references, all this. and they come together from all over the place. You guys don't know each other when you start. And then all of a sudden, the common bond of you found this Jesus because someone told you about him. And that's what I love about the team is you're standing on basketball courts in places you've never been, in front of people who are sometimes some of the toughest people from that community. But you guys are dauntless. You're courageous. You are bold. And I've seen so many who have learned from you guys that, wait, if they can do this, if they can share Jesus in these hard situations, shouldn't I be doing more of that?
We've got folks who are listening to the podcast right now who are going, what is an on-eagle wing? And some folks who know what it is, but everyone listening has had that experience of, I'm in a tough spot right now. I know this person needs Jesus. I'm kind of scared they have no interest in hearing it. And if we know you guys have faced some tough crowds. You're sharing your hope story. People aren't exactly looking at you going, oh, wow, tell me more, But but everybody has been there in a tough spot. You must have felt fear. You must have felt concerned about what's the response going to be. So how do you deal with that? I mean, what do you do? Because you guys don't just share your hope story in front of, which is awesome enough, in front of hundreds of people sometimes. But after that, you're going one-on-one, each of you, sometimes multiple times in a night, talking with people, sharing your hope story with one person individually. So for folks who are listening who face some of the same concerns, fear, what would you tell them? How do you deal with it?
Prayer, of course, obviously top of the list. Before every reservation, we always pray the 3 open prayer: the open the door, open their hearts, and open my mouth. Starting off with that, of course, there are different verses too. Talk about being courageous and being fearless. The one that I always remember in Joshua 1:9: be strong, be courageous, and don't be afraid and don't be discouraged, for the Lord your God is on your side wherever you go.
I love that. So if you're watching on video, Sabin is versercising, as my dad calls it, because he'll teach the team these different verses every summer as we're traveling with the team. And this was one last year before, where it's be strong and courageous. So anyway, I love that I do the same thing.
I can never remember those.
Acting out.
That's pretty awesome you can remember them. I can never remember those.
But yeah, prayer, always hearing that the land that we're going to be on and prayed for, and that we have people all over praying for us. I've always been afraid going to different places, and especially different reservations where I don't know. Like, I only know my reservation, but going to these different places, you can see the similarities of back at home, and finding some little place you're familiar with, and of course, like I said, prayer. You always hear about it. So the ground we're on, where we're at, prayed for, knowing you're not alone there. Of course, you have the whole team there too, and people you can lean back onto that, if you were to fall, they would catch you.
I think that was Charles Spurgeon who said prayer isn't, or might have been Oswald Chambers who said prayer isn't part of the work or even preparing for the work. Prayer is the work. It's crazy to go into a difficult situation sharing about the Lord without having gotten that ground ready first. It's so interesting that you say, that scripture that says that the Lord goes ahead of us. You guys find that when you go to a community, he's already been there. He's already prepared the ground, and you guys are there to be the harvesters.
But I think what else we see with the team, you mentioned some as far as praying the 3 open prayer and everything, is when we're ready, when we've known what to say, when we've thought that through as far as, and we equip the team with kind of a simple approach and everything.
I think that's an important point, Brad, that you guys have, before you go into the situation, you have even practiced with each other, going, this is the scripture. If I really want to lead someone to the Lord, this is the scripture. I need to at least know and communicate the basics here. So yes, you pray, but you guys do a great job. Brad, you lead a boot camp. Maybe if you're listening, you need your own kind of personal boot camp, going into the Word. These are the scriptures that
do a shameless plug?
Do a shameless plug.
If you are willing, a lot of what we teach the team is found on Your Hope Story from our ministry.
YourHopeStory.com. That's right.
YourHopeStory.com. Well, you can see a lot of what we go through is that, because it's about getting to Jesus through your story. And anyone can do that. But
Can you say that one more time?
YourHopeStory.com, and anyone can do it.
And getting
it's free.
getting to the hope of Jesus through your story, because everybody has a story.
Right, and so when you're going into a community, you're finding common ground. I can't tell you how many times team members come back from events, and you kind of got to this where they come back and they say, I met me out there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people like us out there that are waiting for someone to connect with them, help them to feel seen, and all of a sudden that opens doors and it tears down walls, because you guys are being real. Mm-hmm. You're sharing your story, you're asking them their story, and you're getting to Jesus' story.
Yeah.
And when they do that, you're ready. It's not like, oh, what do I say now? Oh no, I don't know what here. The gospel's the gospel. You can dive on in and share that. So I appreciate that about this team, that it's always about that. I'm ready, I'm prayed up, and I'm gonna go out there, no matter what the result is, I'm gonna faithfully keep after it.
Mm. And going back to what he said about finding me, that's what Ron always tells us before the trip, is there's gonna be 7 things we found, and that the one that always picks out to me is you're gonna find a you. And
you're gonna find a you. Yeah. So that's like, one of the things that we've heard Dad say so many times is that sometimes the best gospel sharers are people who remember what it's like before they had Jesus, their BC time. The person you're scared of sharing the gospel with, and maybe this is how you guys get some of your courage, if I'm hearing you right, is that I recognize this was just me before Jesus, and I may not have had the best look on my face. I may have seemed disinterested, but deep down, I know I needed something. I love that. I love that. I met me. Can you tell us? You've shared your hope story.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What has been important to you as you've shared it? What's going through your mind? How have you prepared yourself when it's time to go and be in front of people and share your hope?
I think going through my mind, it's to remember that I am Christ's ambassador, and to hope that when people see me, they see Jesus in me and working through me. And I remember one time during one of the reservations, after I got done sharing my story, someone came up to me and they said, going through all that stuff you did growing up, and to see you now, and you just got a big old smile on your face, and that it sorry if I get emotional, but
Oh, please.
it is crazy seeing how I grew up in a different situation. And of course, there are people who went through that too. And now when they see me, they just see one person who's always smiling. And of course, spending a year with you guys too, that's one thing you guys always bring up, and that I'm always smiling, no matter what the situation. And just to know me now, that I wish I had someone like me now back then when I'm going through that.
So if you're listening, you can be that. If I'm getting my pronouns right, you can be the me.
Yeah.
That you remember being. That's such a huge point. Remembering you're Christ's ambassador, because as we're praying, we're praying, we're being prepared to know what we're going to say when we share the gospel. Use your story, because everyone's got a story. And I'm hearing, remember you're Christ's ambassador, that the people you're sharing the gospel with, it's usually a friend, it's usually a coworker, it's not usually a stranger, but remembering you're Christ's ambassador, that they're watching you and they're recognizing, that's why they want to know who this Jesus guy is, because he changed Sabin, my wife, the same thing. Just briefly to remember, I'm sure you have run into this. The people in her family, she's Navajo, the people in her family, she was the most positive, would never want to hear about Jesus. And maybe they had denied her before. Two of them that I'm thinking of specifically, they were family members. When it was time and they were facing some of the worst things in their life, they came to her and said, tell me about this Jesus, because you're the only one in our family that's always smiling, that's always asking and encouraging. And if you know Sabin, that's Sabin.
They see Christ in you, the hope of glory.
That's everything.
What I would encourage people with as we get close to wrapping up here is the way God uses this team is because you're obedient, you've stepped out in faith, out of your comfort zone. You've said, I care too much about what happens to that person to not tell them about Jesus.
Yeah.
I have to tell them because I know someone told me, and I'm not going to leave others behind. And I think that one of our OEW team members just recently mentioned to me that she said the biggest challenge for me was I was tempted, not so much even by some of the worst things from her past or whatever, is by comfort. She said, comfort is what, all of a sudden I was settled in at home. And I'm just like, yeah, I can still make a difference here. I can be okay here and everything and still be close to Jesus. And she realized, no, I've got to keep going out. And I see that in Sabin, because Sabin has gone from us meeting him at Warrior Leadership Summit, being part of the On Eagles Wings team, going to the Leadership Center, graduating, and now he's just about a month and a half from being this year's Leadership Center male RA.
Wow.
That's obedience and faith and confidence and courage.
Sabin, so someone's listening, and Brad, that's a great point, bringing up comfort. That might be the top reason people don't share their faith. It's a lot easier to sit at home. It's a lot easier to go to church and sing our Christian songs.
Let the pastor do it even.
Let the pastor do it. Of course, that's not the plan Jesus gave the disciples. It was, if you're a follower of me, your job is to go and share the gospel. But you could choose, some of these places we go to, it's hot, it's humid.
Yeah.
Sometimes where you're staying isn't very comfortable. You guys sometimes are, I mean, we look for the best place you can possibly stay, but sometimes in the middle of these places, you're sleeping on a church floor. So, you know, people are in their summer. People have their own decisions to make about comfort. I can sit home in my air conditioning. I can watch Netflix. I can let the pastor do it. Here's my bottom line question for you. At the end of the day, what motivates you? What motivates you to go and choose to be on this team where it can be hard, where there are challenges, amazing things happening, but people listening who are choosing comfort right now, and they're starting to realize it as we're listening, what motivates you to go and jump into the fray like that?
There's a lot of things that do motivate me. I can't put them part into word, but I think knowing that my name's already written in the Lamb Book of Life, and I know that I'm gonna be with Jesus one day in heaven for eternity, and not wanting to see people be left behind and experiencing that hope that we found. And I always like the story of how your dad used the Titanic. You know, there are people on the boats who are going to be saved, and there are the ones who are wanting to be helped that are in the water. And I think just knowing that the world needs to be saved, need to be saved, and just experiencing that love and hope that I've experienced and that I've come to know. Like, you want everyone else to be happy, and knowing where they're going to be spending eternity, and
I love it, man.
That is,
I can't put
what
it
an
into
what an awesome. You did just put it into words, man.
Thank you for giving that.
What an incredible
challenge.
motivation.
I think that if you have listened to this
you getting choked up
episode, I am.
during this?
If you
I am.
listen to this episode, you've heard a roadmap to being able to share Jesus with others. And I so thank you, Sabin, for taking the time. I know you've been running around this week helping out at Warrior Leadership Summit. I'm glad we got to take this time to hear your story and the difference you're making, even through the ministry of On Eagles Wings, but well beyond that as well. And I would just tell people, pray for these warriors of On Eagles Wings, even the rest of this month. When you hear this, press pause, keep listening then, but press pause and pray for the warriors of On Eagles Wings team, and then go find someone to talk to.
And go to oneagleswings.com, right? Can we
Actually,
get
Hutchcraft.com.
Hutchcraft? That's right. Yeah, go to
Just look for On
hutchcraft.com.
Eagles Wings. We're right there. You'll find out more about Sabin and all these warriors. That's who you get to work with. So
That's right.
So everyone, thank you for tuning into this.
We got to invite Sabin on this one.
Yeah.
Oh, we do.
We do.
You're joining
so
us
here we
right
go.
now.
You ready?
So from
here we
now
go.
until
So
next
really, here we
time,
go. Go mad.